The following episode of Choice Words will involve discussion of rather sensitive topics, among them being suicide and bullying. If these are triggering issues for you, please be advised that the topics will be mentioned late in the video. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds, nerdettes, and gamers of all ages. This is your man, Blazing Ace Nelson, and it's time for some more Choice Words. It's been quite a while since I've actually had to necessarily even do one of these videos, and I'm glad for the space in between them because that means there's not really so much going on that pisses me off to the point where I actually have to do this. I mean, come on. You've seen what I've been putting up on my channel lately. Gameplay videos for Sengoku Basara 4. Hell, I am still working hard to try and get the Salty Run Back review ready for you guys, as well as getting things prepped for Season 3 of the Hooligans. But you see, I have this allergy that needs taking care of every so often. You see, it's an allergy to bullshit. It's time to expose some of that bullshit today. So here we go.
Yo, here we go. Yo, here we go. Time for some action. Can't get no satisfaction until my steel toe crashes. Head on collision, what's happening? Fist swinging, face smashing, no need for the caption. And you bet.
Now, to start off today's bullshit expose, let's focus our sights on the Federal Communications Commission. As you all know, the FCC just voted 3-2 along party lines to actually go ahead with new supposed net neutrality rules proposed by the FCC chairman, which basically, the rules that the chairman proposed basically allows in a limited scope, but still allows for content providers and for ISPs, for internet service providers, to actually engage in pay for prioritization practices. In other words, you pony up dough. It's like you pony up dough to the ISPs. You know, if you pay their fees, they will ensure that your content is fast-tracked to your customers. And those customers who decide they don't want to have to deal with paying for that bullshit, and those companies that decide that they don't want to pay basically the ISP's extortion fee, then their stuff either gets zero improvement at all or gets throttled back. You remember I talked about this in the last Choice Words video, and in the info bar, I provided links to petitions. I provided links to not just the petitions, but also a good course of action as far as what you can do to make your voice heard, to submit an open comment on the official FCC forums online, to call the FCC, to call the chairman, to call your Congress people, for crying out loud, to get attention to this issue. And just recently the vote was held, and there were protests going on outside the FCC hearing, as well as protests going on inside. But on the inside, it was a little bit different. In the actual hearing itself, there were 3 people, as you'll see in this video that I have getting ready for you, 3 people who were invited in by the FCC to make their voices heard, to explain why they are against what the FCC chairman has proposed. There were no threats of violence. There were no aggressive movements to try and rush the podium. They simply stood up and spoke their minds. And then were subsequently hauled out of the place for it. This can't be how democracy dies. Hell, democracy and freedom of speech should never die. A government by the people should never perish from this earth. And even though the United States is effectively an oligarchy at this point, the people still have a right to make their voices heard. Doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter the size of your bank account, doesn't matter your gender, it does not matter. You have a right to make your voice heard, just as much as others have a right to disagree. But disagreement should never be enforced effectively at government-sanctioned gunpoint. But anyways, take a look at this video of what happened at the hearing that the FCC held. I believe this was back on May 15th. Take a look at this video. Just take a look at what goes on and take a look at the smug, arrogant expression on the faces of those stuffed shirt bastards at the podium. And when you see that, no, you won't shit bricks. But you will understand fully why this has me pissed off.
The FCC, where Comcast seems to rule, is an example of the lack of legitimacy of our democracy. And we want to make sure that people understand the context of this is that we have an illegitimate democracy and we have the people ruling. It's obvious the internet's a common carrier. It brings us all equally to the net, where we can all go without any prejudice or bias, without any kind of discrimination. We don't want to see that end. We want to see the FCC do its job and regulate the internet for the people, not to regulate it for the corporations. We don't want you driving under the influence of Comcast. We want you driving the influence of the people. Don't ban the internet.
My name is Margaret Flowers. I'm also with PopularResistance.org. In the 21st century, the internet is our free speech, but in this country, we're losing our rights to free speech. The internet was created with our public dollars as part of the public commons. It should never have been reclassified. We need to put it back in the public space, reclassified. This is our First Amendment right.
I'm Kenneth Lack. I signed up to join the United States Army 25 years ago. I pledged to defend and support the United States Constitution, including the First Amendment. You're trying to destroy First Amendment rights to free speech and free press. I am totally against that. That's okay. I can be arrested.
I could bear that better in your manhandling.
Okay, we now have a full quorum, and the commission meeting will come to order for the May 2014 meeting of the Federal Communications Commission. Let me begin with a couple of housekeeping items. First of all, we have a particularly full agenda today. So for the benefit of my colleagues, we will be taking a bio break between the third and fourth items for about 10 minutes, and we'll be coming back. We need to come back quickly for I just want to say at the outset, insofar as before the meeting began, there was some activity here. The purpose of what we're doing here today on the open internet is to make sure that we hear from everyone and that we start a process that fully opens the doors for comment by the American people. We're going to move through that process today, and disruption doesn't help getting to the point where the American people can provide input into the process. So we look forward to a full and complete discussion of all of these issues, and that's the important thing that we're beginning today. So, Madam Secretary, will you please introduce our agenda for the morning?
Now, once again, in that video, just like I said earlier, there was zero aggression with those people that stood up to speak their minds. They simply got up, introduced themselves. I mean, even that third person, a freaking veteran, a veteran who clearly gets that the internet is probably one of the last bastions of freedom of expression and freedom of speech that we have left in this country. And they just decide, well, they're not kissing their asses, they're not buying our product, haul them out. That's utter and complete nonsense. And for those of you that are still actually planning on submitting an open comment to the FCC forum, yes, the time for open comment is open. I will provide a link directly to that in the info bar. But for those of you that actually tried back when I posted the previous video, if you try to submit another comment now, you'll notice that the site has actually been made more cumbersome as far as submitting a comment. Now, instead of just being able to, type your comment in a designated field on the site itself, you have to actually go back, open up like a Word document or Open Office or Notepad or something, type out your comment there, and then attach it to that page as a separate file. It's the FCC trying to do so, and you can quote me on this. It is the FCC trying to do so simply to discourage dissent. Dissent is our greatest and most accessible weapon in the fight to maintain our freedoms, and it is a weapon that the FCC is currently attempting to blunt with these new regulations. Speaking of the FCC and submitting a public comment, I actually went ahead and did so shortly after I posted my previous choice words video. And today in the Ace Man's email, yeah, I got a response back. But it reads to me pretty much like one of those bullshit form letters you get. Check it out. This is, well, first off, let me read off to you guys what my comment was. The subject, as I put it, was jurisdiction. It was like jurisdiction over the FCC and net neutrality. To Chairman Thomas Wheeler and the FCC commissioners. As a concerned citizen, I'm writing to urge the Federal Communications Commission to protect net neutrality and drop the proposed pay-to-play rule which would allow corporations and ISPs to implement paid prioritization over bandwidth. The internet is essential. Well, the internet has become essential to American business, innovation, and democracy as a whole. As such, the original principles of net neutrality, that were originally proposed in the communications charter, excuse me, those principles must be protected. Please, protect the open internet, scrap paid prioritization, and reclassify the internet as a telecommunications service, as a common carrier underneath Article 2 of said communications charter to ensure net neutrality. Sincerely, yours truly. And here's the response I got back. Thank you very much for contacting us about the ongoing open internet proceeding. We're hoping to hear from as many people as possible about this critical issue, and so I'm very glad that we can include your thoughts and opinions. I'm a strong supporter of the open internet, and I will fight to keep the internet open. Thanks again for sharing your views with me. Tom Wheeler, Chairman, Federal Communications Commission. Of course, the address that this was sent from is do not reply at fcc.gov. Well, guess what? I'm gonna reply. Chairman Wheeler, let me ask you this one question. Well, let me ask you this question. It may not be just this one. As a former telecom lobbyist who has now been basically upon the whims of our supposedly liberal president, as a former lobbyist who is now heading the commission that is supposed to regulate the industry that you lobbied for, wouldn't the new rules that you're proposing present a conflict of interest? Let me put this another way. Doesn't pay for prioritization serve as the literal antithesis to the idea of an open internet that you are so rallying for? If you've got companies like Netflix having to pony up to Comcast just to keep their streaming service from being throttled, does that mean that the internet is still open? As far as I'm concerned, no. It doesn't mean that the internet is open. It means that what you are trying to achieve is completely against what you claim to be for in that response to my comment. So you know what, Mr. Chairman? Until you pull your head out of your ass, no, let me rephrase that. Until you pull your head out of the asses of companies like Comcast and Time Warner, until you stop brown-nosing those greedy bastards, then I can't even take what you say with a grain of salt. Oh, and speaking of companies like Comcast, if you are stuck having to pay Comcast for your internet service like I am, then this next one is really gonna get your knickers in a twist. Comcast is currently planning data limits for all of its customers. Yeah, you heard that right. Now, this article is in the financial section of CNN.com. It says, Comcast is considering imposing monthly usage limits for all of its internet customers. The executive vice president of Comcast predicted at a conference last week that in 5 years' time, the company will have a usage-based billing model rolled out across its footprint. In other words, this basically means that if you're a Comcast customer, you are now going to have a data cap on your internet, whether it's standard broadband, whether it's high speed, whether it's Xfinity Blast, what have you. There is going to be a limit on how much you can use without incurring extra charges to an already damn near extortionist cable bill. This is the same company that when billing their customers decides that they want to try and send you the bill not only for the current month but for a month in advance as well, so you're pretty much stuck with a bill that says you owe in the triple digits for something that should only be maybe $60-$70 a month. And now they decide that they want to put a usage limit, put a straight up hard usage limit on your internet service. But let me continue with this. All right. The Vice President, David Cohen said the company would aim to set the limit at a level where, and I quote, the vast majority of our customers wouldn't be affected. And he speculated that the right limit might be set at 350 gig, somewhere between 350 to 500 gigs a month. A cap that size would allow you to download or stream between 70 and 125 HD movies, which typically run between 4 to 5 gigs in size. Now, considering how much internet traffic is streaming video, streaming music, hell, streaming on Twitch TV, for example, how quickly do you think you'll go through that? And Cohen says that the majority of our customers won't feel it. I call bullshit. Hell, I'd be surprised if, for those of you out there watching this right now, I'd be surprised if your bullshit detector wasn't already going off long ago. Cohen said he doesn't think Comcast will ever have a system in which 80% of our customers are impacted by data limits and are forced to pay for additional usage. Though he added that it's very difficult to make predictions. Yeah. That's bullshit suit and tie jargon for saying, yeah, I'm trying to pay lip service to our customers by saying, oh, the data cap won't be that bad. And then behind his back, he's talking to his homeboys going, all right, get your bill collectors ready because we're going to be busy this summer. And here's another quote from Cohen, just to grind a little bit of sea salt in that open wound. I don't think it's the model that we're heading toward, but 5 years ago, I don't know that I would have heard of something called an iPad. Right. The article says that Comcast is already currently experimenting with a 300 gig data limit in some markets, charging those customers $10 for each additional block of 50 gigs. There's also a 5 gig flexible data option for light users. And those plans were apparently introduced after Comcast scrapped its hard monthly cap back in 2012. Now you see, Comcast is still in the midst of trying to secure that merger with Time Warner Cable. And if this merger is actually approved, if this goes through, then there better be some antitrust blowback waiting in the wings, because there will practically be no competition remaining. There will damn near be a monopoly held by Comcast if they get that merger with Time Warner. And then the hard data caps on top of this, between Comcast and Time Warner, that's internet service provided to 1 in every 3 households in the United States. So that's internet service capped at a hard limit for households that do a lot of streaming, that watch a lot of their television and their movies online, like using Netflix, Hulu, Crackle, Dailymotion. For households that are regularly on YouTube. And yet there may actually be people out there that want to support this. The vast majority of them, I think, are the ones that are going to be profiting from this. Vice President Cohen, you need to have a seat. Well, let me rephrase that. As soon as Tom Wheeler and the rest of the FCC and the rest of the FCC, you know, the other two that voted for those new net neutrality regulations, as soon as those 3 are finished kissing your ass, line them up right next to you so you can all catch a backhand clean across the cheek. And then turn the other cheek so I can kick you across that one too. As it turns out, yeah, this edition of Choice Words is going to be rather tech heavy. You know, all this talk about the FCC and, you know, cable service and data caps on the internet. Now, it's actually time to switch it up to go to something a little bit different, but still internet related, but more gaming related. And this one strikes a bit of a raw... Well, this one strikes one of a few very raw nerves that I have. For those of you that don't know, or for those of you that might not have been paying attention, just recently, a massive charity was going... It's like there was a massive charity that was... A massive gaming charity that was started called Operation Supply Drop. Google this bad boy. Check it out. I'll give you the gist of it. Operation Supply Drop is basically a charity that, is basically a charity effort that is designed to send games and gaming-related items to American soldiers deployed overseas. Now, let me give you a little bit of an anecdote. Yeah, this episode's already been running long, but you know what? You came here to listen to me rant, so here we go anyway. But my brother, who I love and look up to dearly, this man is ex-military. Served multiple tours with the U.S. Marine Corps. Bro, if you're watching this, much love. But it's because of my brother that I had actually really gotten serious into gaming. I mean, from him borrowing games like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy III from his friends for the Super Nintendo for us to play back when we were in high school, to him and one of his squad mates in the Marines getting me hooked on Dynasty Warriors, back when Dynasty Warriors 3 was making it big on the PS2. It's not only as a gamer, but as an artist, my brother is hugely responsible for the man that I am today. So seeing a charity service like Operation Supply Drop, it really makes me smile, because it is something that I think is unbelievably cool. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if a good majority of enlisted folk are gamers anyway. So to actually have a charity effort that is designed to basically send stuff like PS2s and PS3s and various games and accessories, send these to our men and women overseas, so that way they can pass the time by getting in hours on the games that they love when they are not actively out there risking their lives to protect this country. I cannot express how happy this makes me. And even thinking about one of my friends from SoCal who keeps in touch with me on Facebook, who actually wanted to start up her own YouTube channel specifically catered to, you know, gamers who are in the military. You know, this seems like something that I think she would absolutely love. Just recently there was a huge charity stream for Operation Supply Drop. And it was hit with a DDoS attack. Some disgusting, below contempt bastard went out of their way to hit a charity with a DDoS attack. Now, no, this isn't the first time this has happened. This isn't the first charity that has been hacked and stymied by these kinds of attacks simply because some bastard on the internet wanted to get their jollies off. I mean, what could be going through your mind to make you decide you want to pull some shit like that? I mean, you know, I could sit back and chuckle and go, whoa there, Satan. But you know what? This is not anywhere near a laughing matter, considering all the shit that our service people have to go through day in, day out. And there's a charity put together for them by people who want to show them some love here at home. And someone decides they want to fucking hack the main site for the charity and basically make it to where the organizers want to shut the charity's main site down. This is beyond angering. This is almost to the point where if I were any less pissed off, then I would be flying into an uncontrollable fury at this point. But no. Whoever did this, I hope they're found. Now for something, well, I guess it's a little less angering, but still just flat out disgusting. This has been making the rounds on Facebook for the past couple of days. My man Tommy Duder posted a link to a video that, of all people, Review Tech USA did on this topic. So I'm going to go ahead and, take a look at the article along with you guys and give you my thoughts on this topic as well. The topic being one Gamer Girls magazine. Okay, let's clear the air here. Come on. Y'all call me Ace, right? Let's put all the cards on the table. Aces and eights. I have a collection of pictures of hot girls on my computer. Red-blooded American male right here. Come on. It's inevitable. Cosplayers, models, it doesn't matter. If you're beautiful, I might have a picture of you. That's the way it is. But there is a fundamental difference between appreciating beauty and objectification and exploitation. Now, gender politics in gaming, y'all know where this is gonna go. Someone throw it up. Just gonna call it out right here. Oh, gaming ambassador, Miss Sarkeesian, where the fuck are you? Gamer Girls magazine is, for lack of better phrasing, it's spank material. It is softcore porn. The link to this will be in the info bar for you, to the CanadianOnlineGamers.com article dealing with this. But the cover that they show in this article shows a woman named Christiane wearing nothing but taped together glasses, a bow tie, suspenders, and what I'm hoping actually are panties instead of just, something photoshopped on her to make it, to get it past the censors so that the cover could be posted on the internet. But seeing this cover, frankly, it fucking disgusts me. It disgusts me on a number of levels. Not the least of which being I know a good number of girls who are into video games. I know a good number of girls who are into video games even more hardcore than I am, and that takes some doing. But not a near one of them, not a single one, is going to be sitting there playing their video games provocatively posed over the side of a fucking coffee table, for crying out loud. I wouldn't be surprised if you're gaming in your pajamas or gaming naked or what have you, but I don't give a shit. If you're gaming and you're having fun, that's all that matters. But no. I'll just read from this cover real quick. Christiane reveals her game stats. In the pages of the magazine, you'll find out very quickly that said game stats just so happen to be her measurements. Game stats. Yeah. You know what? I think the first couple lines of this article pretty much sums it up. If there's one ploy that's sure to get virgin nerd gamers everywhere doing the waistband super tuck, look it up. It's pictures of sexy girls holding controllers, right? I'm not going to fault the women that appear in this magazine. I'm not going to fault the models that appear in this magazine for taking a job, doing that job, and earning their pay. I'm not going to fault them for that. I'm going to fault the fuckers that decided that this kind of magazine was a good idea. I'm going to fault the fuckers that decided to try and stereotype the gaming that tried to enforce this stereotyping of gamers as virgin nerds with taped together glasses and pocket protectors sitting in their basements playing Call of Duty with a bag of Cheetos, freaking sitting there with orange dusted tallywhackers after a hard day online. The ones that decide they want to try and perpetuate and publicize this stereotype, yeah, I'll fault them. I'll fault them till the cows come home. And if I see them in person, you're damn right they're getting a piece of my mind and maybe a couple knuckles too. This is the kind of shit that gives people like me and people like you that I'm sure are watching this a bad name. And should you find the contact info for these jerks, let them know exactly how you feel. Let them know, and make sure that their magazine, if it's online, make sure that that magazine does not get a single click. Make sure they get zero revenue from that bullshit. And if it's in print, burn it. If you find copies lying around on the street, I would not even subject dogs to using that drivel as toilet paper to wipe their asses after they take a dump in the park. If you are looking for the very definition of a cancer in not just the gaming community, but the media at large, Gamer Girls Magazine. That is the cancer that needs to be excised. And it needs to be excised pronto. And now for a little something that's even more gaming related. Capcom. Oh, Capcom. Good Lord, Capcom. You know what? I could fly off into a rant about how Capcom is still trying to nickel and dime their customers into oblivion with the pre-order DLC costumes for their poster case of bad DLC exploitation that is Ultra Street Fighter 4. But to be honest, my man Omni already covered that in a video that I really think you should check out. It's entertaining, and it still manages to be informative. So if you haven't already, check out his channel, OmniCloud7 on YouTube. Omni is probably one of the coolest dudes I've had the chance to actually meet here on the net, here on YouTube. He's one of the good guys, flat out. But anyway, enough about the good guys. Let's get back down to the bad guys. Capcom. In order to promote diversity, you are going to love this. Trust me. Oh boy, you're going to love this. Capcom, to encourage diversity, has basically made a public showing of promoting more and more female employees. Now, considering that, let's face it, considering that Japan is still a country that is plagued with a good amount of social justice issues, especially gender issues. Capcom actually trying to make this public move to promote more female employees instead of just, doing so. There are some that could call this, a good faith gesture. That there are some out there that could call this Capcom actually trying to get their act together. And honestly, if these female employees are very likely, I'm talking 99.99% being promoted because of the job that they have done at Capcom, even in the midst of all the nepotism, cronyism, and bullshit that Capcom's CEO is currently miring the company in. I wouldn't be surprised that these women are being promoted because they have actually done a good job considering what they have to work with at Capcom. But this is Capcom we're talking about. And considering their recent actions, considering their actions over the past couple of years, no. You have not earned back enough trust, Capcom, for me to just take you at your word that you're trying to promote diversity and that you're trying to get your act together. Oh no. Good on you for promoting female employees, but I'm taking that with a large grain of salt. Especially in the face of an incident that I had just barely found out about that happened at Capcom back in 2010. So, this incident's like 4 years old, but if y'all remember earlier in the video when I mentioned that there are a few that, although I may be an angry, curmudgeonly, relatively cynical individual, there are very few raw nerves that I have that will really, really set me off. Bullying is one of those nerves. Bullying is, in fact, one of the largest of those nerves. Because, you see, in the midst of Capcom trying to make this grand show of, promoting diversity by promoting female employees, I'm not too sure whether or not litigation on this particular incident is still ongoing, but, and I'm just going to read the title from this article on Kotaku. Japanese game developer apparently harassed so much she attempted suicide. Let's get down into the article itself. In 2009, a 20-something female joined Osaka-based game developer Capcom. The new employee was assigned to a couple of different games before becoming a member of the team developing the, at that point, upcoming big-budget title, the upcoming AAA title, Dragon's Dogma. And at first, things were good. But by December 2009, things got awful. Really awful. According to a recently released lawsuit, again, whether or not litigation is still pending or whether or not that suit has already been seen to fruition, I currently don't know. I may very well update you in the next choice words. But according to that lawsuit, the new employee apparently felt so bullied at Capcom that she tried to take her own life. A senior female employee was assigned to the Dragon's Dogma team, and this senior employee apparently made the young woman's life miserable. Her new boss supposedly reprimanded only her at meetings and assigned the young woman impossible tasks with zero instructions on how to complete them. In the court filing, the senior employee's behavior was described as irrational and repeated. And Amongst the team working on Dragon's Dogma, the young employee felt isolated. So, in order to try and compensate for that, the young employee thought that the best way she could help Capcom was to create a database to help internal game development become more efficient. Something that Capcom, I would say, desperately needs, considering how disastrously their outsourcing efforts have gone recently. Resident Evil 6, Devil May Cry. Yeah, I'm looking at you. She wanted to help internal development while still working on the Dragon's Dogma team. It was a huge project. Going back to the article here, it says, it was a huge project and the young employees and superiors signed off on it, realizing how important it could be. And she thought that by creating the database, she could show her worth to the Dragon's Dogma team. Like, really do something to make her mark. And that was in addition to her regular work on Dragon's Dogma. Every day, for 2 months solid, July and August in 2010, she worked late hours trying to get this thing done. She continued work on that project until October 6th of 2010, when she was yanked from the Dragon's Dogma team, the database redesigned to another department, and her boss stating, and I'm quoting from the article here, even if the database is a success, you are worthless to the team. Between late October and early November, two more superiors began trying to get this young woman to quit, saying that she's problematic and that she abandons her work or that she skips meetings and her ideas stink. She went to HR she had to go to HR about the harassment, and HR did nothing. The harassment didn't stop. November 11th of 2010. This woman had to seek medical help and was diagnosed with anxiety disorder. And on December 10th, she took time off from work. During that time off, she attempted to OD on sleeping pills, antidepressants, and cold medicine. She was out for 4 days, but luckily survived. And even after her condition improved, even after she had finished rehab and tried to go back to work at Capcom, there were people who were insisting that she hadn't recovered, and that got her suspended and ultimately dismissed from Capcom. So that's wrongful termination, harassment. That is outright bullying. Time to lay a few more cards on the table. Before I started college, hell, throughout most of junior high and high school, I was bullied constantly. There were a few times where I tried to take this to my brothers and sisters, but nothing was really done, and it was no fault of theirs. It really was no fault of theirs. They were there to, at the very least, listen to me when I had something I wanted to say to them. But it had gotten bad enough to where even I had contemplated trying to take my own life. So I can just imagine what so many marginalized and outcast children have been going through lately. And then just seeing that this kind of bullying still happens to adults in a professional setting. And they're no better off because the people that are supposed to be trying to help them do nothing. And there are people out there, even people that I know, even people that I consider friends, even though I am having a bit of a hard time of it, that say that bullying is necessary in order to toughen us up, in order to teach us how to defend ourselves and defend others. No. Bullying is not necessary. Bullying is not warranted. Bullying is not welcome. I don't give a fuck who you are. You can grow up to be whatever you want. It's like, but the moment you decide that you want to try and become a bully, the moment that you decide that you want to pick on someone just because they're different from you, or just because you have some sort of overinflated sense of superiority and you think someone's weaker than you, the moment you decide to do that, you and I have irreconcilable problems. Wait, no. There is one way that those problems can be reconciled. When one of us is around. So Capcom, you know what, after doing this, I'm honestly reluctant to support even the single roster. I might still continue with them because it's a project that I want to see through. But as far as actually supporting Capcom, Capcom is dead to me. Well, no, Capcom was out first. Well, that's enough for one day. The rant wagon's out of gas, so we're gonna stop. Yeah, this shit got pretty heavy, dude. Anyway, thanks for sticking with me, thanks for watching, and by all means, take the information that is in this video. Take the information that I provide in the links below. Take the information in videos like, again, those you'll find on OmniCloud7's channel, those you'll find on Alpha Omega Sin, Event Status. Take the information, research it, formulate your own opinions, do what you think. But for those of you that have come to not only get the information, but to listen to my views on it, thank you very much for watching. Thanks for all your support. Thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for putting up with me this whole time. Until next time, this is Blazing Ace Nelson signing off. Work hard, game harder.